Well, hello. So I figured I'd throw out a list of stuff I saw this year that I didn't talk about. I took most of the year to get my shit together and didn't do an awful lot of content. I mean, I published my second book, I got vinyl for my music going just last week, pre-orders available now. I did a lot of other stuff to kind of balance the grind of content with actually making things I'm passionate about, so there's that. Don't lose your soul out there, you only have one. Nevertheless, here's a list of movies I saw in 2023 and what I thought of them. Lightning round. Go! Hell House Origins. I like this one a lot. I like the series as it is, but I think they keep coming up with creative ways to reinvent it. Admittedly, I go for the slower and more deliberate kind of horror over whatever most modern horror is doing, and I find it very effective. It's not expensive or clean or flashy. It has all the hallmarks of trash, but moments in this movie stuck with me and probably will. And given how forgettable of a year 2023 was for new movies, I think that's a huge plus. Silent Night. John Woo's return to cinema is just as lame as I kind of hoped it would be. You know, no double guns and doves, but the moment where two people point guns at each other and realize they're actually friends who are the same is there, and I freaked out for that. I actually love John Woo. That shouldn't be news to you, but I don't know, maybe it is. I didn't love this movie, but I do love the glimpses of his flair I see in it. I almost wish he would have gone a bit harder on it and just went balls to the wall, but this is a good enough kind of thing. The Killer is one of my favorite movies of all time, so I'm biased, and nothing will ever be that good. I guess it's just good to see him trying something. Talk to Me. Didn't love this one, but I liked things about it. It's a solid breakdown of youthful rebellion gone wrong into something that resembles addiction and depersonalization through the internet, and pressure and representation of oneself through a digital image. It just kind of landed with a thud to me. It needed one more hook to get me to love it. But as I said earlier, everything is aiming for either crazy as fuck or subtle kind of tone these days, and this one was a bit too much of both for me to really enjoy it. Megan. I think I vehemently disliked this. Yes. I don't think there was a part of this movie that won me over. It's an interesting premise of doll AI that becomes super powerful and takes over the world by total accident, but it doesn't go narratively far enough. At a point, I was like, fuck the main characters. Let's see this doll take over the entire financial world. You know, crash the stock market, hurt the president, you know, wild global takeover shit. I thought it would have been very, very funny, but it gave up before it got there. Sad. Should have been sillier, but you know, as it is, it's just another one of those movies about children's thing becomes evil and does a kill. Infinity Pool. Lame. Weak, even. I think Brandon Cronenberg is really trying to stamp in that he's not like his father and hates living in his shadow, hates Los Angeles, and wants to leave Paradise Island now that he's experienced its depravity. But it makes me wonder why he even tries. Why make a movie about that? Just move to the mountains, settle down, and be creative in a wildly different way. I don't know, man. Like, if you're miserable, do something else. I don't know. A Haunting in Venice. Now this is the banger we like to see. Small movie, small story, well performed and choreographed, aware of its limitations. I think Agatha Christie is getting done fairly faithfully here. If that's all Kenneth Branagh wants to do with his creativity these days, then, you know, by all means, keep the mustache, keep making these fucking movies. I think I was the only person on earth that was hyped for this movie and actually loved it. And loved it, I did. Scream 6. Puke. Maybe there's a world where 6 Scream movies was a good idea, but I don't think we're living in it. The meta thing is so tired. Just tell me a good story. But of course, the movie struggles to do that to the point that I wonder if this was even the aim. I'm not against big horror movie sequels on their face. I mean, I like the 4th Hell House movie, so, you know, nuance. But at least it really played it differently, right? At least it gave some consideration to being a small story that was mostly successfully told. This one feels like the weakest murder mystery ever. Plus, I called the twist nearly immediately, and then the rest of the movie was tedious from that point forward. The Outwaters. Speaking of subverting expectations, what the fuck was this? Okay, so when I made a video about Skinamarink earlier this year, everyone freaked out about The Outwaters and said I'd love to see it. So I queued it up and watched it that evening at home in the dark. And I found it to be extremely bizarre, kind of embarrassing, and devoid of anything that really made me like it. I was immediately not on the movie side in the first 30 minutes. And then when everything popped off, I was simultaneously frustrated and fascinated. The gross bits were satisfyingly gross. The weird shit was appreciated, but at the end of the day, it felt very empty to me. I will give it the benefit of the doubt and say I still remember scenes from it today. But now when I try to really think about what those scenes were, I can't. God damn it. Shin Kamen Rider. Let's fucking go! Finally, we got a huge Kamen Rider movie that does everything that you would want it to do. Maybe because I've watched so much of the show by this point and am an avid fan of the series, I felt like some of it went by a little quickly. Like, I wanted the movie to take its time just a bit more. But as an adaptation of the OG Kamen Rider narrative, it was strong. So much of the shooting style was immediately satisfying, and as character after character came on screen, I found myself screaming in the theater. This might be my favorite movie of the year just from the sheer cinematic experience, but to an extent, that's my obligatory answer because I fucking loved it so much. I guess that's what makes a movie something to rewatch and remember though, so, you know, points. Godzilla Year Zero, Godzilla -1, what? I can't remember what this fucking movie was. Okay, so copy and paste everything I said about Kamen Rider here. This Godzilla movie was fucking excellent. There were so many times when I clenched my fist and screamed watching this, and luckily, seeing as how no one is ever at the theater, I could allow myself the physical reaction. I spent most of the movie shouting, "He's coming! He's coming!" But also the story was very appreciated. Very much a movie about choosing life, and you love to see that. I cried thrice. It got to me. It stuck with me, and the ending blew my fucking mind. Huge props to this movie and the people who made it. Great job. Barbie. If this movie was made by an indie studio for under $3 million, everyone would think it was some kind of experimental masterpiece. There's a lot about Greta Gerwig that I love, and her sensibilities actually show through really strong here. But there's some like eye-rolly stuff in the back half of the movie. You know, my yeah, I get it meter was sort of off the charts at times, but in general, I think it's a good story for young women to hear and explains a lot of the modern problems we're facing, not discluding a foreboding existential dread even when things are good. It's not just about the social condition, but also the condition of aging and accepting that you and your life are never going to be perfect, at least forever. Things become normal, and that's pretty alright. Just don't let your whole world collapse in the process. Oppenheimer. I am become joke, destroyer of humor. This was good. I don't know what to say. It was a 3-hour long trailer. It was fine. I liked it. You know what? I liked it. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I guess I don't have anything to say. Super Mario. Look, that's Mario. Okay, that's a joke, but also in the theater, a kid pointed at the screen in like 5 minutes and turned to his parents and said, "Look, that's Mario." Wow, what a profoundly weird movie that seemingly forgot to have, I don't know, like a full movie in there. Everything is too fast and lacking in any wit or gravity. I guess what the fuck did you expect? But also, damn, couldn't it have been neat if a whole narrative or like story was in this? It's a collection of scenes that kind of go together. I mean, they go together on paper, but there's like a whole lot of shrugging and also visceral horror in this movie for being so banal. I wasn't against it, really. I had my good time hat on. I just really thought that there would be more. I don't know. Is that wrong? That I thought that there would be more? Guardians 3. Pretty good. I like James Gunn in general. I think everyone does. He's got a real chip on his shoulder against Disney here. We love to see that. They want to make the perfect world at the cost of human lives and effort, and that super sucks. James Gunn really identifies with Rocket in this movie, just some animal that broke through the technicalities and actually made some of the good Marvel movies, and then a barrage of getting asked very offensively how he figured out how to do that, as if making a movie is more complicated than just making a movie. Getting his movies ripped apart, put back together, very Zombie-ian. He's like coming at this having had his whole narrative fucked up, losing his job once and having to swap to DC for a film. But at the end of the day, it's a good movie about moving on, like finding yourself and just moving on, knowing you tried your best, but sometimes it's just time to move on. Not holding ill will, just getting over it, deciding to do something else, which is just what I think James Gunn needs to do. John Wick 4. Fire. I liked it when big gun go off. Keanu is super good here. We binged these movies for a week before they came out and stopped what we were doing to go see it, and it was a massive relief, even though we agreed that it was not as good as the third movie, whatever that means. I don't know what I wanted from it, but it delivered on that thing to a T and surprised me not at all. I ordered a cheeseburger, and by God, it gave me a cheeseburger. Beau is afraid. All in all, pretty decent first 20 minutes. Unfortunately, a very frustrating 3 fucking hours after that, though. Like, damn, I didn't expect to be so bored and frustrated. It was as if I was watching a movie and then very suddenly the movie took a step back and then fired itself firmly up its own ass and disappeared before my very eyes. The back half is just painfully uninteresting to the point that I wanted to watch something else. I stuck with it, got to the payoff, and I was so excited to find out that it was the lamest twist I'd ever seen on top of it all. You know, it's awful to have to listen to the most vapid guy in the room talk about how he's smarter than everyone else for 3 fucking hours. Jesus Christ. Meg 2. Now this. Alright, this is ultimately what I wanted Beau is Afraid to be. You know, Jason Statham has the big spear, okay? Jason Statham has a big spear, and you bet your ass he's gonna fuck that shark with it. Also, am I smoking crack, or did Ben Wheatley direct this? Follow-up question, why did fucking Ben Wheatley direct this? Great paycheck, or did he genuinely have a vision? I'm leaning towards paycheck, but son of a bitch, did this movie go crazy in no short order because Wheatley is a wild director with absurd ideas? Maybe he should just make bizarre action movies now. You know what? I'm fine with that. Killers of the Flower Moon. This was easily the best movie of the year after a ton of scrutiny. People were shitting down this movie's neck before anyone saw a still image from it, and it turned out to be an incredible piece of work. Scorsese makes the 10,000 ELO chess move of sacrificing his own filmmaking style and panache for a movie that makes the typical crime guys the baddies and making you actively hate the protagonist, and thank God. What a power play. He genuinely has figured out this aspect of art that most people haven't caught up with. Sometimes sticking to your true purpose and intention is more valuable than making your story appealing. This movie will put your grandpa to sleep. He might even fucking die. And yet it speaks in such depth that you feel yourself really get on his level about it. The cast is excellent. The story is filled with valuable nuances and insights if you've never heard this story or any version of it. Also, I said the cast was excellent, but I would like to point out that Leo DiCaprio is like, he's just too much for me. I don't get it. I grew up in Oklahoma. This was a commonly shared truth amongst the native population that I spoke to. It's not just about white businessmen taking everything from native tribes, but also slowly digging graves that they themselves could easily fit into, then just pushing them in and being there to pick up the pieces. It's the true quality of contemporary brutality, and it's not fun or exciting. It's the banality of evil on full display. Even peppering in a moment where Scorsese makes his point blatant by literally coming on screen and saying it directly to my face while providing a sad and true end to the story of the victim involved. It's the sort of movie that I would love to see more of because it's a story that we needed to actually hear. The Killer. The last movie on the list is here mostly because David Fincher made it, and it made no waves whatsoever. It's a great movie about how people who listen to The Smiths are psychopaths. Ignore my Spotify. There's just something about the portraiture style of this, ultimately leading to someone finding their own principles, what matters to them through a long and drawn out series of failures. Sometimes the price of greatness is way too high, and the greatness itself merely makes you and the one you love a target. Is that worth it? One might say that the joke isn't funny anymore. But you're right, that would be way too obvious. End of list. Thank you for supporting me and showing me love this year. It was a bit of a quiet one, and I enjoyed that a bit more than the constant grind of content over focusing on my life literally in front of me. If you want to support my Patreon, I would appreciate that greatly. I would also love to see my vinyl sell out before the drop because I could potentially make more of my backlog, which would be awesome. I think we've got like 200 copies, and I think like 30 of them are gone right now, so you can pick one up. It'd be kind of sick. And if you'd like, please consider reading my books. I have written 2. I put a lot of love and care into them. Thank you all so much for a great year, and I'll see you next year. Bye!